Again, this little devotional I'm going to share with you today came from our Devos Game Plan for Life Chalk Talks. You can go to our website, and I'll mention that a little bit later on if you want to get some information on where you could get these little Devos. I want you to think about this for a minute. You talk about all the things that happens in sports. We're racing cars, it's competitive, it's NASCAR. I'm standing in Dover, Delaware in the pits, and all of a sudden I heard the crowd go up with all this noise. I knew something had happened on the track. I turned and looked on the TV set, and here's Joey Logano's number 20 Home Depot car flipping time after time after time on that Dover racetrack, coming down the track. 8 times that car turns over. Well, everybody's scared to death. Heart goes in your throat. I'm the same. And so I take off running to the hospital. And I get in, Joey, his dad's there, and we're standing there with Joey, and Joey's fine. He was shook up, he was shaking some, and basically the doctor kind of put them through, asked some questions, and basically they released him. He was fine. So as we sat and talked about that week, that scary wreck, you're saying, well, maybe Joey wants to set out the next week. That would probably be a good idea from racing. Instead, Joey said this: no, I think I need to make a statement. I'm young, I'm in this sport, I want to race this next week. And can you believe this? He goes out the very next time he got in a race car, a nationwide race, and won the race. Now that was a statement on courage. So at different times in your life, it takes courage, doesn't it, if we're going to go forward. I was also reading in Acts, the 4th chapter. And as we go back and look at God's Word, Peter and John were in a situation where they also took courage. They were on the way to go to the temple to preach, and they saw a lame beggar on the side of the road there on the entrance to the city. They stopped, he asked for money. They said, we don't have money. We're going to give you something more important. And they really healed him at that point. Now think about this. The Pharisees who were running everything there, they didn't like that. They didn't want to hear that somebody had performed a miracle. And so they put Peter and John in jail. Now as a backdrop to this, the Pharisees were really uptight because basically they also didn't want anybody preaching about God and Christ and what Christ had done on this earth and the fact that he was resurrected and he came back to life. They didn't want anybody preaching that. But that's what Peter and John were preaching. And that healed the beggar. So basically they kept him in jail overnight. But here's what, when they heard him speaking and talking and they talked to him, the Pharisees, here's what just kind of grabbed them. These guys were unschooled, Peter and John. They were ordinary men. And to be quite truthful, the Pharisees were astonished at the wisdom they had. And, basically they knew that they had been with Jesus. So they released them, and of course with a caution of saying, we do not want you preaching about Christ. Okay? Think about this. That took courage now. Peter and John, what are they going to do? Are they going to run, or are they going to preach? And the bottom line is, they stood up, showed tremendous courage, because they knew that what? Jesus had actually been crucified. The same thing can happen to them. Peter and John took the approach, no, we're going to preach. And so I think that's the challenge for all of us. At different times in life, it's going to take courage for us to do things. And we need to be encouraged. I think that these acts of courage that we see today, and particularly that we read about in God's Word as we study Him, these were people that took a real strong stand for the Lord, and they kept preaching. I think back to my life. How many times would I have to be faced as I look back at things like the youth home? That took a lot of courage for us to step out. 4 guys saying we want to do something like build a youth home in Washington, D.C. Had no money, really. And it was really a dream of wanting to do something to help kids. We wanted to develop a youth home that taught godly principles, to talk God's Word. And 4 of us in that first meeting, we had nothing at that point. We stepped out, had a banquet, one thing led to another, and we were able to get the youth home built. I stop and think back to that many times, and I say, gosh, that took guts. I'm not so sure today, if you told me, hey, I want you to go start a youth home, I'm not sure I'd have enough courage to do that. But basically what had happened in that step for us when we started a youth home, as I look back on it, that was really God doing it. It wasn't us. It was God establishing that youth home. And there was miracle after miracle I could detail, and sometimes I might do that for you. Detail the many miracles that I saw take place financially and every other way, people coming on board to help build that youth home. So many times in our life we're faced with what? Times where it takes courage. You may be in one of those right now. It may be something from a vocational standpoint, a financial standpoint, might be something to do with your family. I just encourage you that if we have courage, if we're staying in God's Word, if it's prayer, serious Bible study, and we're staying with Him, and we feel led to do something, that God's leading us to do something, then let's take that step. Let's take that step of courage and step out. It's happened many times in my life. There's times in my life I've shied away from things, been afraid to do things. But I think just like Peter and John, we need to have courage and take that step. And then we need to remember that nothing is too big for God. There's miracles out there waiting for us if we'll take that first step. If you want more, go to gameplanforlife.com where we can tell you how to get these little chalk talks. Thanks for joining me today. If you've enjoyed these chalk talks, subscribe to our channel and visit gameplanforlife.com.